Greetings everyone. I'm here today to show you how to assemble a Spartan Swiss Army knife from Victorinox. If you're like me, you may have received one as a gift, and the person who bought it for you may not have realized that you have to make an appointment with the store in order to assemble your Swiss Army knife. So after a bit of pooling my resources with friends and family, we figured out a way to assemble it without having to go back to the store. So I'm going to share my personal experience with you. So to begin our assembly of our Victorinox Spartan Swiss Army Knife, first of all, you'll notice that the box comes with an instruction set as such. This was the most misleading and probably useless instruction guide I've ever seen in my life. There are so many inconsistencies with its design, I don't even know where to begin, and it amazes me that a company like Victorinox would even print something like this to include. I have a feeling it's because this is more for show, and the fact that they actually want you to have to come back into their company to assemble your knife, but we are going to do that without having to make the appointment. So let's begin our assembly. So step one, we're going to take our base plate here, which will be the one without any of the notches or indents, and we're just going to lay that flat, and we're going to take the 4 nails that came with the kit. You'll notice that 2 of them are slightly thicker than the rest. One is slightly thinner but the same length as the 2 thicker nails, and one is slightly smaller, thinner, and has a rounded top instead of a flat nail. First of all, you'll notice that the 2 thicker nails correspond to the 4 thick grommets. And what you're going to do is you're going to notice that the grommets have indents where the nail heads fit in perfectly. You're just going to slide those together and set them off to the side. As again, the 2 thicker nails will correspond to the 2 bigger grommets. The smaller, thinner nail with the flat head will correspond to the smaller, thinner grommet, and again, you want that to fit together so that everything's nice and flush. And set that off to the side. So, now what we do with the nails is you'll notice that the hole on the far right and the hole on the far left both correspond to the thicker nail since they have thicker holes. You'll just set those in like so. You'll notice the 2 holes in the middle are thinner. So the nail, the thinner nail, is going to go in the hole second to the right, like so. And the nail with the rounded head will go in the 3rd hole from the right, like so. So now what we'll do is we'll flip this over. We'll take our can opener like so. Having the blade face you, we're going to insert it on the far right nail, like so. We're going to take our bottle opener / screwdriver, having the notch facing you, insert it on the far left nail like so. Taking this with the groove facing out like so, facing it straight out like this. And then we're going to take our first spring tensor. You'll notice this notch here. This notch is going to follow along the nail second from the right. So you'll just insert it like so. And it'll only go together one way, but you'll notice that it does require a bit of pushing around in order to get everything to fall together nice and flush. Sometimes it fights you, sometimes it doesn't. So you just have to bear with it. But you'll hear a nice click when everything pops together. Like that. Second, you'll take your spacer, which will separate your first from your second layers. And again, you'll notice there's a notch here for the second pin from the right, and there's 3 holes pressed in. All you're going to do is you're just going to match those 3 holes up over the other 3 pins. And you'll want to try and be careful, because if you move any one of these pins, the whole spring tensor might pop out and you'll have to start back over from step 1. So what you're going to do is you're going to slide that down and push until everything's nice and snug, and that's going to hold your entire first layer together. So from here, we're going to assemble the second layer. So you'll take your blade, again, blade facing you, insert the longer blade on the far right hand side. Then you'll take this spacer that goes in between the smaller blade and the second layer. Now you're going to face with this little notch part coming out towards you in the direction of the blade. So that'll slide on like so. And again, the blade will go on over the top of it like so. The corkscrew, you're going to want having the first coil in the direction going up like so, and insert that on the smaller peg. Nail third to the right like so. Finally, you'll take your last spring tensor, again, has a notch for the second pin to the right. And you're just going to insert that, and the same thing you did in the first layer, just kind of finagle with it until everything fits in nice and flush. Just like that. Lastly, you'll take your final piece, and there'll only be one way this can go on, but you'll want this cut out part facing towards where the corkscrew opener would lay down. But again, you'll just match up the 4 holes over the top like so, and again, you'll want to be slightly careful as you do not want your spring tensor to come undone. So just match them up, and then once you get everything lined up like so, push down until everything's nice and firm like so. Sometimes you'll have to watch it, but your spacer and your small knife may become dislodged while you're applying the last piece. If this happens, all you have to do is just push everything back into place like so, and then push everything flat again. Last step before having to create the rivets is you take your remaining 3 grommets, as again, you'll notice there are 2 bigger ones, those go on the 2 bigger nails, and you'll want the form-fitting end facing up, so that way when you hammer down the nail after you've clipped it, you'll form a nice rivet. And again, this one was on the second from the right. And as a reminder, the nail third from the right does not have a grommet, so you do not need to worry about it. And now we will move to the garage where we will snip the ends of the nails off and form our rivets. Now that we moved out to the garage, we're going to form the rivets that'll hold your Swiss Army knife together. In order to do this, you're going to need 2 tools. One, you're going to need a pair of snippers, and 2, you're just going to need a small regular hammer. So the idea with the snippers is you want it to snip the ends of the nails off as close to the actual grommet as possible. So first step is you're going to really push down and make sure that your Swiss Army knife is all pushed together and there's no space in between any of the layers. And then just double check and make sure that nothing's out of the ordinary and everything is lined up, like so. And then to begin, doesn't really matter where you start, just start. And you'll want to, again, as close to the actual rivet as possible, and then just snip, just like that. And you'll go around, do it on all 4. Like so. Just like that. Now that's done. Now all you're going to do is take your hammer and you're just going to pound down on the ends of the nail so that it forms a nice even flush rivet. Now the trick is you don't want to pound too much, otherwise everything will get too squished together and the tools will not open properly on the knife. But you do not want to not hammer enough to where everything's too loose and things do not open right. So just kind of slow, steady, even hammers, and just kind of one at a time, and then look and make sure and see if everything's flush. We will move our Swiss Army knife to the hard surface of a vise or a table, and we'll just kind of hammer these down. Like so. Until the ends are nice and flat. Like so. Good. Just like so. And that is how you form the rivets that will hold your knife together. Alright, just as a reminder, the third hole from the right, since it does not have a grommet, after you snip it, you do not have to hammer it down, otherwise you just drive the pin out. So just leave that as it is. And now for the final steps, we're going to add on our case. So this is basically just going to be done by matching up each side. The holes will correspond to the 3 holes in the case. And what you'll need for this is a vise and something to, I guess, cushion your knife against the vise, which we are just using a paint stick, which we broke in 2. So with that, we'll move over to the vise and finish the final touch to the knife. Alright, now that we are at the vise, you just want to double check and make sure everything's nice, flush, lined up. If this pin, if the nail third from the right happens to be longer than any of these ends, you may just want to take a file and file it down. But to begin, now we're just going to close everything up on the knife, like so. Like so. We're going to match up our individual pieces to the sides that they need to go on. Like so. We'll widen our vise. We'll insert it between our 2 paint sticks like so. Now it's important you do one end at a time. And all that's required is just barely enough force to get the pieces to push together. So just a little bit, like so. Flip it around, get the other 2 pegs in, slide it together like so, just enough so that everything pushes together, because the case is form fit and will form together as you push in. And then, just for safe measure, give it just a little bit more on the whole thing, make sure it's all together. Take it off. And that is how you assemble your Victorinox Spartan Swiss Army knife. And as our final touches, we will put on our key ring, put in our tweezers, toothpick, and then as a final end to that, we will put some multi-purpose 3-in-1 oil on our Swiss Army knife. So now to begin, let's put on the key ring. Just like so. that on. Pop in our toothpick. Pop in our tweezers. Like so. So, as our final touch, we're going to add some oil. And you're going to do this in 3 spots. One on each end where the tools are, and then one in the middle where your third nail is. So, we'll begin. Just a little bit in here, like so. Second spot, like so. Third spot, just like so. And then you'll just kind of work everything shut and open again until everything's properly lubricated. Like so. Open, shut everything. And you'll probably want to do that a few more times, but that is your assembly of a Victorinox Spartan Swiss Army knife without having to make an appointment at the only available shop in the United States, which is in the Mall of America. So, everyone have a great day, and thanks for watching.